traveling privately. You've heard people telling you not for hire, right to travel. I'm going to break down majority of what they look for, what they need here. Some of those other 20 to 25% details left, I've explained in these videos on Patreon. Inspired by Sir Harry Schultz, the world's highest paid investment consultant. So who is this guy named Harry Schultz? His name is Harry D. Schultz. And within the other search criteria, when you're looking up, you see things relating to National Health Federation, things in University of Miami news, his biography book, International Harry Schultz letter when it comes to Wall Street and financial things, other political activities. So this is a well-known guy who did certain things. So let's go into his background so you see the details of who this particular document we're about to read is inspired by. In other words, some of the thinking behind the competence of the one that inspired this document. Harry Donald Schultz, September 11, 1923 to February 22, 2023. Harry Schultz was an American investment advisor, an author who published the International Harry Schultz letter for 45 years. He learned to trade while serving in the United States Army in Shanghai, and his return to U.S. brought and sold small newspapers, 13 in all. In other words, this guy knows how the market and things relating to fungible instruments worked. He spent the rest of his career advising on investments and writing books in his eponymous newsletter. Schultz was closely associated with libertarian causes. Let's ignore the political aspect of it. Let's forget his early life, no one cares. Newspaper, alright, cool. Writing, okay, great. Political views, no one cares. Personal life, no one cares. His publications, he wrote on the bear market, how to survive and make money in them. The Treasury of Wall Street Wisdom, handbook for using and understanding Swiss banks. This right here was one of the handbooks that I read that led me to comprehend the importance of vaults and private banking. Most of the books you see when people tell you about one man out, stuff regarding Jen Keith and other stuff you read regarding Anna von Ritz or whatever the names are, regarding banks and trust, all that shit, it's just a bunch of speculation. You want to know the real stuff? These are the things that will lead you to it. These are the things that I read that got me what I got. Panics and crashes and how you can make money out of them. Financial tactics in term of sophisticated international investors on remaking the world, cut nations down to size, bear market investment strategies. These are things as to the state of mind that this guy had, and he inspired this memorandum right here when it comes to the right to privately travel. At this point, you should realize there's stages that are executed and exhausted before you even get to the point where they're saying, hey, show me your driver's license. The first stage is they always, based on plain view doctrine, run the license plate of the vehicle. If they don't see a personal name, that's a huge deterrent for them to stay away from you. But worst case scenario, say some type of situation happened that compels them to now come to you. Then comes this point. So the first stage of exhaustion, which keeps your privacy, is the fact that your name will not be on the license plate. The second stage, which keeps your privacy, is the fact that since the name of the license plate is in a business or religious entity, the insurance will reflect the same. So it would not have your personal name on it. It would have the name of the religious entity or the name of the business on it. 2 checkpoints that occur before you're even contacted by any type of municipal armed employees. When they come to you and start asking you for particulars or insurance, they already see all that through the license plate of the vehicle. What the insurance is, if it has insurance, they see all of it. And I don't think people realize this. These 2 checkpoints, they already know whether you failed or passed it, whether you're private or not. So if the vehicle is registered in the name of a religious entity. That's not your personal name. And the registration is also always attached to the insurance. You've passed both right there automatically. So the third step of the checkpoint is when they say, give us your license. Driver's license, please. That's what most people worry about and fast forward. Most people jump into that conclusion. Most people, when they deal with things like this, they don't see the preliminary stages that cause what they are afraid of to get triggered. That's the problem when you have conversations with people. And when you have conversations with people, they limit the scope of that conversation to that point that does not consider the exhaustion, even though that point would not exist if certain criteria were not met in the first instance. So usually when I do have the conversation with people about IDPs and license, I just go straight to it, even though at some point I try to point to the fact that there are other criteria that even triggers the fact that you get to the point where you'll be shown some driver's license or not. But again, as an instance, the worst case scenario mentioned earlier, something happens that just compels that interaction to occur. We don't want to bring it to life, but you know what it is. Then comes the use of the international driver's permit and international driver's license. And the state of mind behind the thinking of why and how, not just the what, but the why and how of how it's valid, is entertained here. And it's inspired by someone who was an investment banker and had history in the U.S. military. So if people are looking for certain things when it comes to notoriety or some type of credential and quote the system to feel comfortable, well, there you are. Again, this was just motivated by Harry Schultz. Since oppressors and exploiters of the modern world exercise their control with computers and paperwork, since oppressors and exploiters of the modern world exercise their control with computers and paperwork, one of the PT's initial objective, perfect traveler, aka, would you say anytime you see this PT, it means you. One of your initial objective is to get your name off as many computer databases. This is the same thing that I've been shown with the database injunction, same thing I've been shown with the vehicle and trust, same thing I've been shown with your 508 entity. Same thing. This is someone else saying the exact same thing. The beautiful part about truth is no matter where you go in this part of the world or what you read, outside of buzzwords, see, charlatans love using buzzwords because they don't know how to explain the details involved or the thinking behind it. They just love using buzzwords, which many people interpret differently. But the one thing buzzword does for you is it gives you the assumption and the expectation of instant gratification, but without the details of the why and how it actually gets you that thing you say you want. But the thing with the real information and the truth is, regardless of the different sequence of words used in different parts by different people, the substance and the why and how would always be the same. Therefore, since oppressors and exploiters of the modern world exercise their control with computers and paperwork, this is what I've always said. Competence is important. The things you see in pen and paper are invisible strings that control people's lives. And you must know the why and how and the thinking behind it. Again, since oppressors and exploiters of the modern world exercise their control with computers and paperwork, one of the PT, aka you, one of your initial objective is to get your name off as many computer databases, mailing lists, and registers of any kind as humanly possible. This is the same thing that they're saying here that I mentioned a little earlier when it comes to the 2 checkpoints. Based on plain view doctrine, is your name registered to that license plate? You don't even have to worry about putting something not for commercial, UCC 1-so-and-so. You don't have to do all that crap. Just remove it from your name. That's even worse. The whole non for commercial license plate people put in their vehicle is even far worse, because it lets you stand out as a sore thumb. And guess what? These people have meetings that says, hey, if you see anyone who does this, get on them. They don't know anything and they can't sue us, and there's no recourse because most of them are afraid of even showing up or even suing because they don't know how to. And they've been conditioned not to because we put that counterintelligence program out there in the first place. That's what all that non for commercial license plate crap does for people. Meanwhile, I tell you, use the art of war, blend into your terrain, look like everyone else. But most importantly, even if they use the plain view doctrine and run the license plate, it's not going to be attached to you personally. It's just not. Again, one of your initial objective is to get your name off as many computer databases, mailing lists, and registers of any kind as humanly possible. Registers of any kind is DMV in the particular case of what we're speaking of here, which is also iterated and reiterated in this memorandum we're reading. First, you disappear from the mailing list and databases. That's the database injunction that I've just explained in this course. And then you vanish from the roster of property owner and taxpayers. That's the same thing that I have been explaining, that I've shown you step by step, and I've given you the cheat sheet to it. These few sentences and words here requires all the details I've taken hours to explain to you, and I've given you what you're going to need. I'm not just telling you with empty words. I'm showing it to you, and I'm giving you exactly what you need to accomplish it. And I have been doing so even far before this course. The rest is up to you to enforce. We are only reading this memorandum to affirm everything we've been saying, so you know that it's not just me who bears this opinion. There are those who know this and have known this. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it exists. Just because someone else is making it sound good with buzzwords without actually giving you the details doesn't mean what you found is the actual reality. But if you seek long enough, you will eventually find. Hence the theological text, ask and you shall receive. There are many ways in which to accomplish this. As I always say, there are many ways to skin the cat. The idea here is that if a government doesn't have you in their files, then overall, they will have less to hold against you. It's common sense. That's exactly how their system works. In other words, consent and participation. They will cease to be able to exercise so much power over you, and thus they will cease to be quite so interested in your affairs. In other words, they can only work with what you give them, because the consent of the governed is required, as we run over in different lessons in different parts. Once again, quote, out of sight is out of mind. Out of sight is out of mind. Tell me, those who put all the whole not for commercial stuff in their plate, are they out of sight? Are they out of mind? So many people in these social media groups give you their own experiences of what all these processes of sovereign man in the land and the secured party creditor stuff has led them to. You need to be smarter than that. You need to blend into your terrain, because most of these municipal employees that are armed are bored. And deep down in their mind, they have a lot of psychological issues they need to sit down and spend a good amount of time to fix. But most of them try to compensate it with their jobs. And they seek action. If you speak to some of these armed municipal employees, you will see their state of mind. They are usually bored. They look for excuses and reasons for things to happen. So they don't mind just randomly running stuff, especially if they're in an environment where slavery is the norm and the people have been dead in the head a long time ago. Out of sight, out of mind doesn't mean you're afraid. Out of sight, out of mind means you know how things work and you are enforcing it. You have better things to do. But competence of why and how things work lets you be wielded with the ability that even if that man or woman goes to the extent of disturbing your peace, then you can let hell rain down on them. That's why over the past few years, I've been showing how Suits 101, Court 101, Tort 101 works and how you structure certain things. I go over how you structure basic trust, basic suit in the first ever Tier 4 meeting. This leads us to an important understanding having to do with computer records. In today's sophisticated society, every quote authority in the world seems to keep a database of records of which you may be included, and probably not to your benefit. I go as far as to say definitely, changing this probably to definitely, changing the mere possibility to an affirmation that their database does not benefit you, because I've seen what they have in the back end. During a routine traffic stop, law enforcement will want to see your driving credential in the form of a license or permit, which has your name and your quote date of birth on it. This is the third checkpoint right here. Again, the third checkpoint is during a routine traffic stop. Law enforcement will want to see your driving credentials in the form of a license or permit, which has your name and your date of birth on it. Meaning those are the two main criteria that tags someone or qualifies as what we call, quote, identity. We went over case laws when it comes to traffic stops and other things that says, yes, if it's a traffic stop or traffic related stop, they can ask for those credentials. Smart PTs, aka if you're smart, you know that these two little pieces of information was cross-referenced within the officer's onboard computer is an open window into your private life. Everybody has a past, and so if you've ever had any prior convictions, traffic citations, arrest, restraining order, revoked or suspended licenses, overdue child support or alimony payments, politically quote incorrect persuasions, aka predictive policing list, unpaid library fines, and so on, meaning no matter how minute, no matter how big, then it will become known in a matter of minutes. And again, this portion is not even considering the first two checkpoints, which is the plain view doctrine went over in this YouTube video. It allows them to just run license plates, but you should not qualify for that because your personal information will not be on there. So assuming they are just so eager to just know who's behind the wheel, or you've done something to flag yourself, or the totality just caused you to be in a circumstance where you now just be forced to be in an interaction. This information is almost always used against people during a traffic stop, but not against the ones who are properly equipped. Of course, most computer records only go back about 7 years. Anything older than that is not necessarily readily available to law enforcement on the side of the road. On the side of the road. 9 out of 10 times they have someone on call that they can always call to run deeper informations. In that database in today's world, the concept of having 2 million terabytes by these well-funded entities will grant is nothing. It's no different than you getting that 1 penny at the store and you just keep it somewhere and you just throw it in one of those small compartments in your vehicle. That's how the cost of doing business to keep database is like to these entities. So know that this limitation of 7 years is really not applicable in 21st century. However, if you are in doubt, always play it safe like PT does. Protect your privacy by not sharing any personal information such as Social Security number, which you are not supposed to, and the Social Security number in the Privacy Act requires you not to. And in the absence thereof, with any officer that has no business inquiring. And if they ask for you, you just tell them you don't really keep it in your head. You usually carry it around when you need it so that there's no presumption of them saying, oh, you're acting suspicious because you don't want to tell you your Social Security number. And even if you are able to affirmatively say that in court according to the Privacy Act, to say, look, the law requires me not to disclose it. The Social Security Act requires me not to disclose it. The Privacy Act requires me not to disclose it. They will say, well, deal with that in court. They would have wasted your time and your effort. So on the spot, just tell them you don't remember it. And even give them a reason, because you're just so used to always physically carrying it around and just showing it to people if it's needed beforehand. So you usually don't keep it in mind. Smart PTs, if you're smart PTs who are invasively asked for such information would in return ask the inquisitive, quote, authority figure, do you work for the Social Security Administration? This is the part I'd like to correct, because again, most of these armed municipal employees are not as smart as you think they are. When people wear costumes and uniforms like those in the military who wear their Marine uniform or Army uniform or Navy uniform or quote, police uniform. When you see that, it gives a semblance that someone is smart and important. But the brain behind that still has a low IQ, still has a dead state of mind, still has a childish state of mind, seeking to qualify himself in his low or her low self-esteem by virtue of that position. This question, do you work for the Social Security Administration, is under an assumption that the one you're speaking with, that armed municipal employee, is intelligent to a certain extent. If you find yourself in circumstances like that, do not give that other party the opportunity or the benefit of the doubt that they are intelligent. Because most of the time, someone who is not intelligent, seeking for dispute and a reason to screw you over and to create some record or affidavit or presumption of guilt, which is that police report, will use everything to his benefit or her benefit to your detriment. Instead of saying, do you work for the Social Security Administration? Just tell them, I don't recall it. Simple as that. If they don't and they do not, then what business is it of theirs? Get the picture? Never volunteer on information that you don't have. This is the same thing that I've been saying. Never volunteer any information that you don't have. You don't remember it. Besides, that Social Security number is not even your property anyway. We've shown that in this video. And the public laws and administrative laws and the statutes that relate to such, and the patents that goes with the Social Security number. International driving credentials. Many of your readers may have problems getting a driver's license issued without a Social Security number. In some states, this can be even more difficult than getting a passport issued without a Social Security number. May I therefore suggest that you consider acquiring an international driver's permit. Within the USA, you can obtain an IDP from the American Automobile Association, AAA. There are other entities such as PATA. Do understand, however, that the permit issued by AAA is not valid for driving in any of the 50 states. Do understand, however, that the permit issued by AAA is not valid for driving in any of the 50 states. AAA issues it for the benefit of its members who are planning and traveling outside of the borders of the US. So AAA only gives it to people who plan to use it outside of the US. If you would like to use IDP anywhere in the US, then you will need to obtain one from the Travel Association Foreign to America. Going straight to the point, Vehicle Code, Division 6, Chapter 1, Article 1. Same vehicle code most people go into and tell you that motor vehicle means commercial travel, where they give you the misnomer that motor vehicle is defined as commercial travel. They go into these vehicle codes but fail to show you this part where they deliberately fail to show you is what I'm showing you. You will see the reason why I tell you most people either don't know or they know and they choose to mislead many people, because the same vehicle code that they look at to tell you, hey, motor vehicle is under commerce and you shouldn't be doing commerce because you're not doing things for hire. The same vehicle code gives you the answer that affirms international law. You will see the reason why I say people are purposely misleading others, because if they really truly care, as they're looking to these vehicle codes, it's impossible for them to not run across certain things that I'm saying here, which quickly lets you know who the charlatans are. Vehicle Code Division 6, Chapter 1, Issuance of License, Expiration, and Renewal. Vehicle Code Division 6, Chapter 1. Article 1. Persons required to be licensed, meaning this is how it determine who should be licensed under our jurisdiction. Exemptions from our jurisdiction, and age limits, the ability to enter into legal contract based on age. 12502. There's another one that accompanies it, which is the day most look forward to. It's the day they sit down and think, yes, I finally did it, while basking in the moment and perpetually enjoying what they have accomplished. No matter what that thing may be, one of those is peace of mind, or said in other ways, freedom from worries of someone else's control. Most of our prime years, our mind, power, and resource have been spent in institutions, occupations, places, and with people, whether at work, education, or leisure. By the time we realize it, aging has reflected on us. even though most of us prefer privacy and a peace of mind, but that requires privileged information that are usually exchanged privately. So I like to tell people that chronological age is not equivalent to awareness of how certain things work. With that said, put aside all negative reinforcement you've been told as to what you cannot do, because this is an age of technology where we have inherited the ability to begin to exchange information regardless of distance. And these type of exchange of valuable substantive information used to only take place in certain circles and family. What I've done is I've created a one-on-one privatization course to take these privileged information most people who know would not tell you, but this time place it in your hands. So you realize the true power you have. Someone woke up today with something that you need and they're willing to give it. The only thing between you and that thing that you want or that thing that you need is just a conversation. What is left in terms of execution of transfer of that value is for someone to show you and explain the intricacies, the clarity, the details to you. That's one of the attributes we humans have that makes us quite unique. Conversations, explanation and depictions from experience. Humans have a life hack whereby one human have gone through it and have experienced it. Everyone else within that humanity have a cheat sheet by virtue of that one particular man or woman whereby they can go straight to that and the information is revealed to them. Take advantage of it. If you know this is something you need, then join the waiting list for the one-on-one privatization course. And the most important of all, pass the baton effectively to your future generations so they don't inherit fear, uncertainty, and ignorance. Like to preserve the focus of each man and woman by dedicating focused energy each time, so it's only going to be 5 people per quarter being taken into the course. Once the 5 wave of people are done, the next 5 come in. In the case that the prior 5 people want to continue the course, they get priority to renew it. If you'd like to join, apply for the waiting list. The link is in the description of this video and on the website subtlesubstanceservices.com under the one-on-one course waiting list. In the age of technology, where you and I can transfer information to one another regardless of distance, we ought to maximize that. Imagine people going by their daily lives actually able to be comfortable in the fact that no one is using them like a farming tool, unbeknownst to them or known to them. And more importantly, that what they know can be passed to those who are coming after them. These informations do not have expiration period. That's how certain people stay in power and many people just tag along in society. Majority of us have only inherited debt, liability, lack, fear, serfdom. No more of that. That is my goal. That is my intent. And I see a world where people are far more competent, because incompetence is what creates victimhood. No matter how zealous one is, no matter how energetic one is, if the compass of competence is not there, everything else is for naught. So let's perpetuate competence, because those who know how these things work would not tell it to you. And those who merely have ideas of it will intellectually speculate about it for years after years. So how about we just get to it and let perpetuation of competence and functional knowledge be the culture. Join the waiting list for a private class where for 3 months period, once a week, for 3 months period, besides all the other things that I will show you, that you would have lifetime access to. Videos, document, cheat sheets about trademark, business, credit, business and personal, and how not to qualify for tax in very specific aspects of your life and entity structures and things like that. Besides that, I spend an hour and a half with you going over everything you need to know, everything you should know, every question you should ask, just one-on-one with you. 1.5 hours, 1 day, every week for 3 months in a row. Join the waiting list. See, I've been showing several people several ways to realistically and methodically gain this, because I've done these things myself, and I haven't shown my own firsthand experience of the success in several occasions, at least the one that I'm able to disclose publicly. There will come a stage where once you begin to obtain certain level of success, entities will begin to send you non-disclosure agreements, because your publication of success is a serious loss to them. And if it's a loss for them, it's a win for you. That win is what I personally perceive as peace of mind and success. So I created a one-on-one course on privatization that breaks down how I did all of this, what is required, and other things you wouldn't even find online. If you think this is for you, then join the waiting list for the course. It came about after I did several one-on-one with people and show certain things, and I noticed a continuous thing where I will be told to actually let people know of these specific things rather than doing it as a silent insight thing among fixed amount of people, or those who are open enough to ask, hey, do I have a course? Then can they do certain things? The wins in life that matters are the ones that you wake up and know that you have accomplished what hundreds of thousands, if not millions, need, but are not even aware in the first instance that they require those things for a life absent of fear, feud, and serfdom. And I also see that certain people need some time to sit down dedicated to their particular circumstance for a prolonged period of time rather than bits and pieces of time. For instance, on the patron page with a tier 4 meeting, we spend at least an hour and a half to, in some cases, 4 hours just going over information, answering questions, and revealing certain things that many people need monthly. But in such circumstances, it's not a one-on-one, and I often limit some of what I can disclose even on that platform. It is also where my attention has to be divided among several people. If you're starting from scratch with anything, we'll sit down and we'll go to the drawing table. We'll particularize things based on what you need. If you've already started certain things up to a certain point where you find yourself being stalled or wondering what the next move is or need to start over, whether you know so or not, I will show you things from my experience. I'll show documents and I'll explain it. And you'll get the time to ask as much question as you want. Of course, come prepared, as it's always best for you to have some of those questions written down, or you can just freestyle it as you wish. But I'll be there to sit down and give it all to you, and I'm certain you would have questions based on things that I say as your mind gradually gains clarity. So this is for particularized people who I have noticed they require extended time. This is also for particularized people that I've also noticed require extended times during consultations and very particularized things for their own circumstance. I'm here to serve you. Whatever I know, I'm willing to give it to you. Come join the one-on-one privatization course.